Well, people are responding by not getting out if they could avoid it. And people are stockpiling in terms of medications that they thought they might need in the coming weeks. So people are not exactly very happy or comfortable with the prospect of the relaxations at the moment.
Now, crematoriums across China are struggling to deal with the influx of bodies amid predictions there could be 1 million more deaths. Throughout the pandemic, the country pursued a zero-tolerance policy of eliminating infections and imposed tough lockdowns on major cities in response to outbreaks. However, the government began to relax the policy this month amid growing civil unrest. In Chongqing, a city of 30 million, where the authorities said that those with mild symptoms should go to work, an employee at one crematorium said it was running out of room for bodies. Well, joining me now, Professor Steve Tsang, who is director of the SOAS's China Institute. Good evening, Steve.
Good evening.
In terms of the situation in China, that is the prediction from a study. It was funded by the Chinese Centre for Disease Control and Prevention and the Hong Kong government. So that is what is being estimated. I'm sure that this story is all over China as well at the moment. Just tell me how people are responding to this, because this is a pretty scary thought.
Well, people are responding by not getting out if they could avoid it. And people are stockpiling in terms of medications that they thought they might need in the coming weeks. So people are not exactly very happy or comfortable with the prospect of the relaxations at the moment.
So this is a self-imposed lockdown almost for Chinese people. They have almost gone completely against what the government's trying to do in loosen restrictions, and they are going back to what they know.
Well, the government changed from previously telling people that the government was completely in charge and people could feel safe to do whatever the government told them to do, to the government now telling them that there's nothing to worry about. The virus is not particularly deadly, and therefore you should all feel relaxed. But we don't really have a plan, and that's how people respond.
So far, only 7 COVID deaths have been reported since the zero tolerance policy was reversed, but there's always a bit of a lag on this. So the government is saying that the sort of everything's absolutely fine, which sort of makes me surprised then that we're even hearing this story about a predicted 1 million deaths, because, as to be said, the Chinese government does have form for perhaps trying to eradicate news that might make them look negative.
Well, Chinese statistics have become very patriotic, and they are telling people that the government's claims are absolutely correct, but people are having very different sense of the reality that they know. People are hearing from friends that people are getting infected with the virus. People are hearing the hospitals are getting very short of staff, that medical staff with suffering from COVID are being asked to work, that crematoriums are working 24/7 and not only in Chongqing but in many other cities, and that basically infection is running rampant.
Yeah, okay, all right. So the Chinese people are self-imposing a lockdown, and the government is continuing for now. Will anything make them change their mind, Steve? Do you think the government will get to a point where it starts to impose countrywide changes to their approach?
Now, what we have is that the Chinese government has not formally abandoned the zero COVID policy. So the formal policy is still a dynamic zero COVID policy, and it is lower down officials, including local officials, who are being given scope to manage it in the best way they can. So the central government cannot be blamed for failure of any policy. So if things should change and the central government decided that things need to change, they can change, but they just will not be blamed for it. They will hold others responsible for the problems. The
Okay.
likelihood remains that they will not impose a nationwide lockdown. It will be more localized type of
Okay.
lockdown if that comes.
Understood. Thank you so much for joining us, Professor Steve Tsang, who's director of SOAS's China Institute.